Ancient Egyptians carefully applied moldy bread to infected wounds, a practice that, unbeknownst to them, likely delivered a dose of natural antibiotics. Roman emperors obsessively consumed a complex potion with over 70 ingredients, hoping it would protect them from any poison. Surgeons in ancient India were performing cataract removals and reconstructing noses with tools and techniques that seemed surprisingly advanced. Some Viking warriors may have consumed specific, now unknown, plant concoctions to induce a terrifying battle frenzy. Early attempts at creating elixirs of life in China sometimes included highly toxic mercury, leading to death instead of immortality. Number 10. The Viking Berserker's Secret Brew. Viking sagas and historical accounts paint a fearsome picture of berserkers, warriors, who fought with a wild, uncontrollable fury, seemingly immune to pain and possessing superhuman strength. They would howl like wild animals, bite their shields and charge into battle with little regard for their own safety. While the image is vivid, the exact source of this terrifying transformation remains a subject of debate and a lost piece of ancient knowledge. Was it purely psychological, a ritual-induced trance, or was there a specific substance, a carefully prepared brew that unlocked this primal rage? Some theories point to the ingestion of certain psychoactive mushrooms like Amanita muscaria, also known as fly agaric. This distinctive red and white spotted mushroom can cause hallucinations, agitation, and altered states of consciousness. Other scholars suggest plants like henbane, which can induce delirium and a sense of detachment from reality, might have been part of a berserker's preparation. The challenge lies in the lack of direct recipes or conclusive archaeological evidence. If such a brew existed, its precise ingredients, their quantities, and the method of preparation, crucial for achieving the desired effect without causing immediate poisoning or incapacitation, are not recorded. The knowledge would have been a closely guarded secret, passed down orally among warrior brotherhoods. The sagas describe the berserkers as being overcome by weakness and exhaustion after their rage subsided, a common after effect of potent stimulants or psychoactive substances. While the use of such plants for ritualistic or shamanistic purposes was known in various ancient cultures, weaponizing them for a specific combat enhancement is a more unique and elusive concept. The lore speaks of Odin's warriors, gifted with this battle madness, suggesting a divine or magical element, which could also imply a secret ritual or concoction known only to a select few. Without a definitive recipe or clear archaeological find, the true nature of the berserker's transformation, and any substances that might have aided it, remains one of history's intriguing, medicinal, and ritualistic mysteries. The effectiveness, in terms of inspiring terror and achieving a psychological edge in battle, is undeniable based on historical accounts. Number 9. The Antidote of Kings, Mithridate. Imagine a world filled with political intrigue and the constant threat of assassination by poison. This was the reality for many ancient rulers, and out of this fear came the legendary antidote known as Mithridate. Named after Mithridates VI, the king of Pontus, who lived in the 1st century BC. This complex concoction was said to make him immune to poisons. The story goes that Mithridates experimented extensively with poisons and their antidotes, testing them on criminals and himself. He supposedly took a small, daily dose of his ultimate formula to build up immunity. So successful was he, legend claims, that when he tried to take his own life by poison to avoid capture by the Romans, it failed to work, and he had to ask a bodyguard to kill him with a sword. The original recipe for Mithridate is lost. While various physicians and writers, most notably Pliny the Elder and later Galen, recorded versions of it, they likely differed from the king's personal formula. Galen's version, known as Teriac, became even more famous and complex, sometimes containing over 70 ingredients, including opium, viper's flesh, cinnamon, agaric, and various other herbs, minerals, and animal substances. The preparation was an elaborate, time-consuming process, often taking months with specific rituals and astrological timing sometimes observed. Each ingredient was believed to counteract specific poisons or to bolster the body's overall defenses. While the idea of a universal antidote capable of neutralizing all poisons is scientifically unlikely, Mithridate and theriac were highly valued for centuries well into the Renaissance. Their perceived effectiveness likely stemmed from several factors. Some ingredients, like opium, could alleviate symptoms, giving the impression of a cure. Others might have had some limited antitoxic properties or immune-boosting effects. The daily ingestion of small amounts of certain toxins, a practice known as Mithridatism, could in theory build tolerance to those specific substances, though not to all poisons. The psychological effect of taking such a renowned and expensive remedy also cannot be discounted. The placebo effect can be powerful. However, the exact balance of ingredients in Mithridates' original formula, the precise methods of combination, and the specific poisons he targeted most effectively are details lost to time. What remains is the enduring legend of a king who dared to master poisons and the quest for a single medicine to conquer them all. Number 8. Silphium, the ancient wonder plant. There once grew a plant so valuable and effective for a multitude of ailments that it was literally worth its weight in silver, even gold. This plant was Silphium, a species of giant fennel that grew exclusively along a narrow coastal strip of Cyrenaica in modern-day Libya. For centuries, from around 630 EC until its disappearance in the 1st century, Silphium was a medical marvel and a culinary delight for the Greeks and Romans. Its uses were incredibly diverse. As a medicine, it was prescribed for everything from coughs, sore throats, fevers, indigestion, and aches and pains to treating warts and, most famously, as a contraceptive and abortifacient. Pliny the Elder, the Roman encyclopedist, listed numerous medicinal uses in his natural history, calling it one of nature's most precious gifts. The resin from its stalk and roots was the most prized part, but its leaves and flowers were also used. So important was Silphium to the economy of Cyrene that its image was stamped on their coins. The exact reason for its effectiveness, especially as a contraceptive, is not fully understood from a modern scientific perspective because the plant itself is extinct. We have no living specimens to analyze. Attempts to cultivate Silphium outside its native habitat failed, making its supply finite and entirely dependent on wild harvesting. Overharvesting, possibly combined with climate change or changes in land use due to grazing, led to its gradual decline and eventual extinction. Pliny himself wrote that in his time only a single stalk was found and sent to the Emperor Nero as a curiosity. The loss of Silphium means the loss of its specific chemical compounds and the precise ways ancient physicians prepared and administered it for its various purported benefits. While related plants in the Ferula genus exist, and some possess medicinal properties like asafoetida, which has some similar ancient descriptions for digestive aid, none match the legendary status or the specific range of uses attributed to true Silphium. Its disappearance represents a significant loss from the ancient pharmacopoeia, a potent reminder of how even highly valued natural resources can vanish, taking their secrets with them. The detailed knowledge of how to dose it safely and effectively for contraception in particular is a piece of ancient medical wisdom we can no longer access. Number 7. Sushruta lost surgical secrets. In ancient India, around 600 BA, a surgeon named Sushruta was performing operations that were astoundingly advanced for his time. His work, compiled in the Sushruta Samhita, is one of the foundational texts of traditional Indian medicine, Ayurveda, and describes over 300 surgical procedures and 120 surgical instruments. Sushruta is often called the father of surgery, and in particular, the father of plastic surgery. He detailed methods for rhinoplasty, nose reconstruction, using a flap of skin from the forehead, a technique that is, in principle, still used today. He also described cataract surgery, where the clouded lens of the eye was pushed aside, cut to restore vision, using a specially designed, curved needle. The Samhita discusses wound management, fracture setting, the treatment of hernias, and even ethical considerations for physicians. While the text itself provides a wealth of information, certain practical nuances of Sushruta's art are likely lost. For instance, the exact methods of anesthesia and analgesia are not fully detailed in a way that could be precisely prebued. The texts mention the use of wine to dull pain before surgery and specific herbal preparations, but the exact formulations, dosages, and their efficacy for major procedures remain somewhat obscure. Similarly, while meticulous hygiene was emphasized, a revolutionary concept for the time, the specific antiseptic agents used, or the full extent of sterilization practices for instruments and the operating environment are not completely clear. The surgical instruments themselves described with great precision, forceps, scalpels, catheters, speculums, show a sophisticated understanding of surgical needs. However, the exact metallurgical processes for creating instruments with the desired sharpness and durability, and the specific skills required to wield them with Sushruta's reported finesse, would have been passed down through rigorous apprenticeships. The loss of this direct master-to-student transmission over millennia means that while we can read about the procedures reconstructing the full sensory and practical experience of ancient Indian surgery, including the specific herbal support medicines that complemented the operations, is challenging. The success rates reported or implied for complex procedures like skin grafts suggest a highly refined art, parts of which may not have been fully captured in the written word, or whose interpretations have faded. Number 6. The true recipe for Egyptian honey, wound salves. Ancient Egyptians were renowned for their medical knowledge, documented in texts like the Edwin Smith Papyrus and the Ebers Papyrus, dating back as far as 1600 BAL. One of their most commonly cited and seemingly effective treatments was the use of honey grease and lint, often from plant fibers, as a wound dressing. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, a remarkable surgical treatise, describes the treatment of various wounds, including the instruction to bind it with fresh meat the first day, then treat with grease, honey, and lint every day until he recovers. While honey is still recognized today for its potent antiemetic properties, the lost aspect of this ancient recipe lies in the subtle details and additional ingredients that might have been used, as well as the Egyptians' understanding of why it worked. Honey creates a moist, healing environment, and its high sugar concentration and low inhibit bacterial growth. It also produces hydrogen peroxide, a known antiseptic. However, ancient Egyptian medical texts also mention the use of moldy bread on wounds. While not always directly combined with honey in every prescription, this practice is intriguing because certain molds, like penicillium, produce penicillin, a powerful antibiotic. Did the Egyptians unknowingly harness this? If so, what type of bread, what kind of mold, and how was it applied for optimal effect? These details are not precisely recorded. Furthermore, the grease component could have been animal fat, which would create an occlusive barrier protecting the wound. But were specific types of animal fat preferred for certain wounds? Were there added herbal ingredients to the honey or grease for specific effects, such as pain relief or enhanced healing, that are not always clearly specified or whose botanical identification? The lint provided a binding and absorptive material, but the choice of plant fiber might also have had subtle therapeutic properties. The Ebers Papyrus lists hundreds of remedies and spells, indicating a pharmacopoeia that included minerals, plant products, and animal substances. Plausible that the standard honey salve was often augmented with other ingredients based on the type of wound or the physician's specific knowledge, details of which are not fully preserved or understood. While the core components worked due to inherent properties we now understand, the full art and precise variations of Egyptian wound dressing represent a more nuanced system than just honey on a cut. Their success rates, as implied by the survival of individuals with serious injuries evident in mummies, suggest a practical effectiveness that we are still piecing together. Number 5. The elixir of life's benign ancestors. Quest for immortality has captivated humanity for millennia, and perhaps nowhere was this search more fervent than in ancient China. Emperors, nobles, and alchemists dedicated vast resources to discovering or creating an elixir of life, a mythical potion that could grant eternal youth or at least significantly prolong life. While many of these alchemical pursuits famously and tragically involve toxic substances like mercury, arsenic, and sulfur, leading to the premature deaths of several emperors who consumed them. It's plausible that alongside these dangerous experiments, there were also quests for more benign health-promoting tonics. The lost recipes here are not for the fatally flawed immortality elixirs, but for potentially effective herbal formulations that aimed to improve vitality, strengthen the body, and promote longevity through less dramatic, non-toxic means. Traditional Chinese medicine, TCM, has a long history of using complex herbal formulas to balance the body's energies, support organ function, and enhance overall well-being. Many herbs considered superior in early materia medica, like ginseng, reishi mushroom goji berries, and astragalus root, were believed to promote longevity and vitality without harmful side effects when used correctly. It's conceivable that alchemists and physicians, in their pursuit of the grand elixir, also developed sophisticated combinations of these types of herbs. These formulas, aimed at achieving a profound state of health that might approximate a longer life, could have been highly specific, with precise ratios of ingredients, particular preparation methods like decocting for specific times or using certain types of water, and tailored to individual constitutions. While TCM still uses many of these herbs, the exact ancient formulations designed with the explicit, albeit perhaps more modest, goal of life, extension, distinct from the metallic elixirs, might be lost or obscured. The secrecy surrounding alchemical practices and the focus on the more sensational and dangerous attempts at immortality could have led to the overshadowing or loss of knowledge regarding these potentially beneficial life-enhancing tonics. The wisdom behind combining specific herbs to create synergistic effects for overall health and resilience developed during this intensive period of searching for longevity may not have been fully passed down or documented, especially if they were seen as less potent or miraculous than the sought-after, but illusory, true elixir of immortality. The subtle art of creating a truly effective health span, extending tonic from natural, non-toxic ingredients, is a lost recipe worth pondering. Number 4. The precise anesthesia of ancient surgeons. Performing complex surgical procedures, such as those described by Sushruta in India, Celsus in Rome, or evidenced by trepanned skulls found worldwide, would have been excruciatingly painful without some form of anesthesia or potent analgesia. While modern anesthesia is a relatively recent development, ancient cultures were not without means to dull pain or alter consciousness, though the precise recipes and their controlled application are largely lost knowledge. Ancient physicians had access to a range of psychoactive and pain-relieving plants. Opium, derived from the opium poppy, was widely known in Egypt, Greece, Rome, and Asia for its powerful analgesic and sedative effects. Mandrake root, rich in tropane alkaloids like scopolamine and hyoscyamine, was used as a sedative and anesthetic. It could induce a state of unconsciousness or stupor. Henbane, another plant containing similar alkaloids, also had anesthetic properties. Wine, often fortified or mixed with other substances, was commonly used to intoxicate patients before procedures. The challenge, and the lost element, lies in the dosage and combination of these potent substances. Too little, and the patient would still suffer immense pain and shock. Too much, and it could be fatal. Ancient texts sometimes mention these substances, but rarely provide the detailed pharmacological instructions, precise quantities, methods of extraction and preparation, or how to adjust doses for different individuals or types of surgery that would be necessary for safe and consistently effective surgical anesthesia. How did they manage the narrow window between effective anesthesia and lethal overdose without modern monitoring equipment? Did they have specific herbal antidotes or supportive measures for patients who reacted badly? Perhaps there were techniques for administering these substances, such as inhalation of vapors or specific topical applications that enhanced their effects or safety. For example, soporific sponges are mentioned in some medieval texts, supposedly soaked in a mixture of opium, mandrake, henbane, and other substances, then dried and later moistened for the patient to inhale. The exact recipe and efficacy of these sponges are debated, and earlier ancient equivalents are even more speculative. The skill of the ancient anesthetist, if such a specialized role existed, would have been paramount, relying on empirical knowledge passed down through generations. This practical, nuanced understanding of how to use powerful natural substances to render a patient sufficiently insensible for surgery without killing them is a critical piece of lost medical art. Number 3. Bald's Leechbook Eye Salve for Superbugs. In the quiet scriptoriums of 10th century Anglo-Saxon England, a medical manuscript known as Bald's Leechbook was meticulously copied. This Old English text contains a treasure trove of remedies for various ailments, blending herbal knowledge, charms, and practical medical advice. One particular recipe, an eye salve for treating what was likely a sty or eyelash follicle infection, described as a wen on the eye, has garnered astonishing modern attention. The recipe calls for garlic and another allium, onion, or leek. The exact translation is debated. Crushed and mixed together, then combined with wine and oxgall, bile from a cow's stomach. This mixture was to be placed in a brass or bronze vessel and left to stand for 9 days and nights before being strained and applied to the eye with a feather. What makes this seemingly rustic remedy remarkable is that modern scientific investigation has revealed its potent effectiveness. Researchers at the University of Nottingham recreated the salve in 2015, following the ancient instructions as closely as possible. They discovered that the mixture had significant antibacterial activity, particularly against Staphylococcus aureus, a common cause of skin and eye infections. Even more impressively, it was effective against methicillin-resistant Staphylococcus aureus, MRSA, a notorious superbug that is difficult to treat with modern antibiotics. No single ingredient on its own had the same power. The combination was crucial. The 9-day brewing period in a brass vessel, which would leach copper ions into the mixture, also seemed to contribute to its efficacy. While the recipe itself is not lost in the sense of being unknown, it's right there in the leech book. What was lost for centuries was the understanding of why it worked so well, and the specific microbiological context of its power. The Anglo-Saxon healers who developed and used this remedy likely did so through trial, error, and careful observation, without knowing about bacteria or antibiotic resistance. The precise nuances of their ingredient selection, specific varietals of garlic or onion, types of wine, freshness of oxgall, and preparation methods, specific temperatures, exact type of brass vessel, could hold further secrets to its optimal efficacy. The rediscovery of this ancient salve's power highlights how much sophisticated medical knowledge might be hidden in old texts, waiting for modern science to unlock its mechanisms. and how the full context of such ancient practices can fade even when the words remain. Number 2. Deciphering the trepanation doctor's full toolkit. Trepanation, the ancient practice of drilling or scraping a hole into the human skull, is one of the oldest surgical procedures known, with evidence dating back to the Neolithic period, over 7,000 years ago. Skulls bearing the marks of trepanation have been found across the globe, from Europe and Asia to North and South America. What is particularly astonishing is the high survival rate in many cases, indicated by bone regrowth around the edges of the hole. This suggests that the procedure was often not fatal and was performed with a degree of skill. However, the full recipe or medical kit and rationale behind trepanation in its various ancient contexts is largely lost. While we have the skulls and some of the rudimentary tools, flint knives, obsidian scrapers, bronze drills, the complete understanding of why it was done for specific conditions, what accompanying treatments were administered, and the precise techniques that led to survival are still subjects of much research and speculation. Ancient texts offer some clues. Hippocrates wrote about trepanation for head injuries, like skull fractures, and to relieve pressure from blood clots. However, evidence also suggests it was used for epilepsy, migraines, and even for ritualistic or magical purposes, perhaps to release evil spirits believed to be causing illness. The lost elements include the specific diagnostic criteria ancient practitioners used to decide when and where to trepan. What antiseptic preparations, if any, were applied to the wound before, during, and after the operation to prevent infection, a major risk? Were specific herbal poultices or dressings used to promote healing of such a critical wound? What pain management techniques were employed during this undoubtedly agonizing procedure, beyond what we generally speculate about ancient anesthesia? The skill of the operator was clearly paramount, knowing how deep to cut without damaging the brain, how to manage bleeding, and how to care for the patient post-operatively. This was highly specialized knowledge, likely passed down through apprenticeships, and not fully recoverable from skeletal remains alone. The spiritual or ritualistic components that may have accompanied the procedure in many cultures, incantations, offerings, or specific ceremonial settings, are also largely lost, yet they could have played a role in the patient's psychological well-being and perceived outcome. Reconstructing the complete trepanation psychoactive, encompassing not just the physical instruments, but also the lost pharmacological, procedural, and even psychospiritual knowledge that made it a survivable, and sometimes apparently beneficial, intervention, remains an ongoing archaeological and historical challenge. Number 1. The original formula of the Egyptian kiki incense. Kirfi was more than just incense to the ancient Egyptians. It was a complex, sacred perfume and a potent medicine, deeply woven into their religious rituals and daily life. Described in various ancient texts, including temple wall inscriptions at Ed-Fu and Philae, and by Greek writers like Plutarch and Dioscorides. Kiki was renowned for its beautiful calming aroma and its therapeutic properties. It was burned in temples at dusk to welcome the gods, to purify spaces, and to create a tranquil atmosphere. It was also used as a medicine, believed to soothe anxiety, induce pleasant dreams, brighten the spirits, and even act as an antidote to certain toxins or as a remedy for liver and lung ailments. The recipes for kifi varied, but they were always complex, often involving 10 to 16 or even more ingredients. These typically included aromatic resins and gums like frankincense and myrrh, spices such as cinnamon and cassia, fragrant woods like sandalwood, though its presence in very ancient recipes is debated, herbs like calamus, spikenard, and juniper berries, and often raisins or dates soaked in wine to bind the mixture, along with honey. Preparation itself was a lengthy and meticulous process, sometimes described as taking months, involving specific sequences of grinding, steeping, boiling, and mixing, often accompanied by recitations of sacred texts. While several recipes survive, the lost aspect of Kifi lies in the precise identity and quality of some ancient ingredients, the exact proportions, and the subtle nuances of the compounding process that would have yielded the most revered and effective versions. For example, the exact botanical species for some named ingredients can be uncertain. The quality of resins like frankincense can vary dramatically, depending on their origin and harvest time, and the ancient Egyptians likely had specific preferences. The wine used might have been specially prepared or aged. The specific techniques for blending to achieve the perfect maturation of scent and therapeutic effect were artisanal skills, likely guarded by temple priests and perfumers. Plutarch mentioned that reading the sacred writings while mixing the ingredients was believed to make the perfume more spiritually potent. While modern artisans and perfumers recreate Kifi based on surviving recipes, achieving the exact aromatic profile and purported psychoactive or medicinal effects of the most sacred ancient versions is challenging. Precise synergy of its many components, as understood and perfected by the ancient Egyptians for both spiritual solace and physical well-being, represents a lost art of aromatic medicine. The true scent that filled the temples and soothed the pharaohs is a fragrance lost to the winds of time.